The mic is hot. Let's break this down. They just put a price tag on the American dream. I'm not talking about the metaphysical price of hard work or the blood, sweat, and tears your grandfather put in. I'm meaning a literal wire transferable price tag, $1 million. If you've been watching the headlines since yesterday, since December 10th, you're seeing words like innovation, expedited pathways, and modernization. The press secretary is out there telling you this is about bringing the best and brightest to our shores. They're calling it the Trump Gold Card. It sounds fancy, right? It sounds like something you get with airline miles. But if you actually pull the text of the program, which I did because I don't trust the chyrons, if you look at the mechanics of what went live at trumpcard.gov, this isn't immigration reform. This is a liquidation sale. Stop for a second. You need to understand how different this is from everything that came before. For decades, we had the EB-5 visa. You've heard of it. That's the golden visa. But there was a catch. To get that visa, a wealthy foreigner had to invest roughly $1 million into a business. They had to build a hotel, a ski resort, a factory. And critically, listen to me, they had to legally prove, that their money created at least 10 full-time jobs for American workers. It was a transaction. You get a green card, we get jobs. That is gone. Under this new system, there is no business, there is no factory, there are no 10 jobs. The gold card requires a $1 million gift, their word, not mine, a gift directly to the U.S. Treasury, plus a $15,000 processing fee, because why not squeeze a little extra juice out of the orange? You following me? The government just cut out the middleman. The middleman was the American economy. The middleman was the construction worker in Ohio building the hotel or the manager in Florida running the resort. They are gone from the equation. Now the money goes straight into the federal coffers to promote American commerce, whatever that means. And for the corporations, it's even darker. $2 million. Google, Apple, pick a giant. They can drop $2 million as a gift to sponsor an employee. And here's the kicker, the part that makes my blood run cold. That sponsorship is transferable. If the employee leaves or gets fired, the corporation can pay a 5% fee and nove that gold card to the next guy. They are literally buying human shelf space. They are buying a permanent seat at the table that they can shuffle bodies in and out of. So why does this matter to you? Why should you care if some billionaire skips the line? Because of how they did it. The government cannot write immigration law. That is Civics 101. Congress writes the law. The president enforces it. But they found a hack, a legal wormhole. They didn't pass a bill. They issued Executive Order 14351. They're directing the Department of Homeland Security to reinterpret existing laws, specifically the EB-1 and EB-2 visas. These are visas meant for Nobel Prize winners, internationally recognized researchers, people with extraordinary ability. And this is where the gaslighting happens. The administration is arguing with a straight face that having a bank account with 7 zeros is now evidence of extraordinary ability. They are redefining wealth as talent. They are redefining a donation as being in the national interest. This isn't just a policy change. This is a constitutional stress test. They are betting that the courts will be too slow to stop them. They are betting that by the time a judge in Hawaii or New York issues an injunction, the Treasury will already have the cash and the green cards will already be in the mail. They promise adjudication in weeks, not years. While your cousin waits 5 years for a spousal visa, while engineers wait decades in the backlog, someone wrote a check yesterday and is getting their papers next month.
But here is the thing they aren't telling you. The legal foundation of this entire scheme is built on sand, and when the tide comes in, and it's coming in fast, this whole thing could wash away, taking the legal status of thousands of people with it. Let me show you exactly how they rigged the system and why it's about to break. Let's wind the clock back. You need to understand that this didn't start yesterday. This didn't start with a tweet or a press conference in the Rose Garden. To understand the gold card, you have to go back to 1990. George H.W. Bush is in the White House. The Berlin Wall is down. The American century is victory lapping. And Congress passes the Immigration Act of 1990. Buried in that massive stack of paper was a little provision called the Employment-Based Fifth Preference, EB-5. The pitch was beautiful in its simplicity. You want to live here? Fine. Help us build here. It wasn't a donation, it was an investment. If a foreign national put $500,000 into a struggling area, rural Ohio, inner city Detroit, and they could prove with payroll records and tax forms that they created 10 full-time jobs for American citizens, they got a green card. And for a while, it worked. That ski resort in Vermont? EB-5 money. That hotel complex in downtown Los Angeles? EB-5 money. It was a transaction that benefited the guy swinging the hammer and the guy pouring the concrete. It was Main Street economics. But then, the rot set in. Fast forward to 2008, the financial crisis hits. American banks stop lending. Developers are desperate. Suddenly, EB-5 isn't just a niche program, it becomes the lifeline for massive corporate developers. They realized they could get cheap money from China and India faster than they could get a loan from Wall Street. The program exploded. But the government? The government couldn't keep up. By 2015, the line was out the door. By 2020, when the world shut down, the system broke completely. I'm looking at data right now from the State Department. If you were an investor from India applying for an EB-5 visa in 2022, your estimated wait time wasn't weeks, it was years. Some projections said you wouldn't get your visa until 2030 or later. The system was constipated. Billions of dollars were sitting on the sidelines waiting to come in, but the bureaucracy was the bottleneck. And that brings us to the villain of our story. It's not Trump. It's not the immigrants. It's not even the Democrats in Congress. The villain is the interest on the national debt. Look at the scoreboard. As of October 2025, the U.S. national debt hit $38 trillion. But the scary number isn't the debt. It's the service on the debt. We are paying nearly $1 trillion a year just in interest. That is more than we spend on the military. That is more than we spend on Medicare. The government is bleeding out. They need cash, not stimulus cash they can print, but hard cash to service the bond market. So some bright spark in the West Wing looked at the EB-5 backlog, billions of dollars stuck in limbo, and said, why are we forcing these people to build hotels? Why are we forcing them to hire 10 people? That takes too long. Why don't we just let them pay us? This is the shift. This is the moment the music changed. Now, I know what you're thinking. I can hear the comments section already. Who cares? Let the rich pay. If a billionaire wants to fund our military or pave our roads to get a passport, let them. It's better than taxing me, right? It sounds like a win. It sounds like America first. Make them pay for the privilege. But pause. Look closer. When that money went into a hotel in 1990, it circulated. The construction worker bought a truck. The truck dealer bought groceries. The money moved. It created velocity. When the money goes into the Gold Card program, it goes straight to the U.S. Treasury. And what does the Treasury do with it? They don't build roads. They don't build bridges. They use it to pay the interest on the debt we already owe. It's not an investment in the future. It's a payday loan to cover the mistakes of the past. We aren't selling visas to build America anymore. We're selling the furniture to pay the rent. And the worst part, they know they can't pass this through Congress. If they tried to turn the green card into a literal gift card via legislation, it would die in committee. The unions would kill it because it cuts out American jobs. The conservatives would kill it because it looks like selling sovereignty. So they didn't ask, they just did it. They used Executive Order 14351 to bypass the legislative branch entirely. They found a loophole in the definition of national interest. They're betting everything that you won't notice the difference between investment and donation until the checks have already cleared. But surely, you say, surely Congress will stop this. Surely the Supreme Court will step in and say, you can't just sell citizenship like it's a Costco membership. Well, here's the catch, and this is where it gets truly terrifying. There is a mechanism in place, a trap door, that might make this program impossible to kill once it starts, and it has to do with something called reliance interest. Let me explain how they rigged the game so even the Supreme Court might blink. Let's strip away the legal jargon. I want to explain this so you can explain it to your brother-in-law at Christmas dinner without getting a headache. Imagine the United States is a luxury condo building. Let's call it Liberty Towers. For the last 30 years, the rule was simple. If a wealthy outsider wanted to move into the penthouse, the condo board said, okay, but you have to pay to renovate the gym, and you have to hire a new doorman and pay his salary for 2 years. That was the deal. The rich guy gets a view, but the building gets a new gym, and the neighborhood gets a job. That was the EB-5 visa. It wasn't perfect, but it was a trade. The building got better. Now, look at the gold card. The condo board is broke. They maxed out the building's credit cards. The roof is leaking. So the board president comes out and says, new rule, you want the penthouse? Forget the gym, forget the doorman, just hand me a briefcase with $1 million cash. The rich guy hands over the cash, he gets the key, he moves in. But here is the problem. The gym is still broken. The doorman wasn't hired, the roof is still leaking. The money didn't go into the building, it went to pay off the interest on the board's credit card debt. The tenants, that's you and me, we don't see a single dime of benefit. The building doesn't get nicer, it just gets more crowded. And the guy in the penthouse, he didn't come here to build anything, he came here to park his money and hide from the taxman back in his home country. That is the mechanism. It is asset stripping masked as immigration policy. And the administration, they are stuck in a catch-22 of their own making. This is where you almost have to feel sorry for them. They promised to cut taxes, that means less revenue. They promised not to touch Social Security or Medicare, that means high spending. They are staring at a fiscal cliff, and they've run out of levers to pull. If they raise taxes, they get voted out. If they print more money, inflation hits 10% again, and they get voted out. So they looked at the one asset they have left that costs them nothing to produce but has infinite demand. The green card. It's the ultimate NFT. It's a piece of paper that people will kill to get. They are monetizing the only thing we have left that the world still wants. Wait, stop, take a breath. I know how this sounds, I really do. It sounds like a conspiracy theory. You want to believe that there is a room somewhere in D.C. where smart people are looking out for you. You want to believe that immigration policy is about national security or economic growth. But I'm looking at the ledger. I'm looking at the clock on the debt, and the math doesn't lie. This is a desperation play. And this is where the dominoes start to fall, and they fall hard. Domino 1. The lawsuit. It's coming. The ACLU, the immigration lawyers, maybe even the state of Texas, someone is going to sue. They will argue the president doesn't have the power to do this, and legally, they are probably right. Domino 2, the injunction. A federal judge freezes the program, maybe next week, maybe next month. Domino 3, the chaos. This is the one that scares me. By the time the judge freezes it, the Treasury will have already collected hundreds of millions, maybe billions, in non-refundable fees and gifts. What happens when you take $1 million from a Russian oligarch or a Saudi prince, promise them a visa, and then say, oops, sorry, the judge said no? Do you think they just walk away? No. They sue. They freeze assets. It becomes a diplomatic nightmare. But the biggest domino is the corporate one. Remember that $2 million transferable corporate card? Imagine Google buys 500 of these seats. They move 500 engineers into the U.S. 3 months later, the Supreme Court strikes the program down. What happens to those 500 people? Are they deported? Does Google lose $1 billion? We are walking past the point of no return. Once this money hits the Treasury General Fund, once those visas are stamped, you cannot unscramble the egg. You have created a class of people who bought their way in and a legal system that says they shouldn't be here. It is a collision course between the executive branch's need for cash and the judicial branch's need for law. And guess who gets caught in the crash? So, how does this movie end? We have looked at the mechanics, the history, and the legal trap. Now let's look at the timeline. I see 2 ways this plays out. Scenario 1, the best case fantasy. The courts shrug. They say, hey, the president has broad power over immigration. The program stands. The U.S. Treasury rakes in $50 billion in the first year. The deficit shrinks by a fraction of a percent. We get a sudden influx of wealthy residents buying penthouses in Miami and New York. The stock market loves it. The GDP ticks up. But the soul of the immigration system, the idea that you come here to build, is dead. We become a giant gated country club. Scenario 2, the ugly truth. This is what I think actually happens. The program runs for 6 months. Thousands of people pay. Corporations reshuffle their entire HR strategies around this $2 million seat. Then the Supreme Court strikes it down. They rule it unconstitutional. But here is the nightmare. You can't deport the money, and you can't easily deport the people who relied on the government's promise. We enter a legal gray zone that lasts for a decade. We will have a class of people living in the U.S. on zombie visas, technically void, but practically untouchable because the government took their cash. It becomes the biggest class action lawsuit in American history. Now, zoom out to 2030. If this precedent stands, even a little bit, the world looks very different 5 years from now. We're moving toward subscription-based citizenship. Imagine a world where your visa isn't based on your skills, your family, or your need. It's based on your tier. Bronze tier, you wait 15 years. Silver tier, you invest in a business. Gold tier, you wire the cash. Platinum tier, you pay $5 million and you don't even have to pay taxes on your foreign income. That's the platinum proposal. They're already floating, by the way. In this world, corporations don't just hire you, they own your access to the country. If you leave Google, you don't just lose your salary, you lose your seat on the lifeboat. It returns to the company pool. It creates a feudal system where your residency is tied to your corporate overlord. So what do? I know this feels heavy. I know it feels like the game is rigged, because it is. But you can't just sit there and doom scroll. 1. Stop waiting for the old rules to come back. If you're a business owner waiting for the labor market to normalize, stop. The government is actively distorting it. If you're a skilled professional, understand that merit is being devalued. Cash is king. 2. Watch the courts, not the headlines. Don't listen to the press secretary. Watch the federal district court in Texas or D.C. The moment the first injunction hits, that is your signal. If the courts freeze this, the chaos will create opportunity. If they don't, the rules of capital have changed forever. 3. Become unbuyable. This program creates a shortcut for capital, but it can't fake competence. They can buy a visa, but they can't buy the decades of experience you have in your field. In a world of shortcuts, deep expertise becomes the only currency that doesn't inflate. Double down on what you know. Be the person the guy with the gold card needs to hire to keep his wealth. The bottom line, they're trying to turn the United States into a luxury product. They're trying to cash out the brand equity of America to pay the bills. It's cynical, it's dangerous, and it's happening right now. But you see it. You aren't distracted by the shiny object. You are looking at the mechanics, and because you see the machine, you can keep from getting crushed by the gears. Stay sharp, stay awake. I'm out.